All right, guys. Look, this episode was a lot. Um, I literally recorded, my review to this like I don't know how many times, probably 10 or 15 times, and every time I'm stumbling, and every time I'm just kind of understanding. Like I don't know how I'm processing this. It's a lot to process. It's a lot of emotions going through me right now, and I just don't know what to really, how to really say it in the way I want to, but I'm going to try for this video to be just whatever. And let me just tell you guys, this episode was just wow. It was deep. It was emotional. It was one of the most compelling episodes of television that I've seen in a very long time. And it's actually really insane to say that one of the most compelling episodes that I've seen in a very long time for any television show, and when it comes to the Last of Us franchise, had nothing really to do with Ellie and Joel and had more to do with Bill and Frank's relationship. And I guess that kind of shows you that, eventually when we do get the compelling episodes with Ellie and Joel, it's just going to hit like absolute bricks, and it's just going to crush every single one of us. Because if episodes like this for two side characters that aren't in the game as much, and for especially Frank, who's not in the game, he's just a dead guy mentioned in the game, it's absolutely insane how they made us care for these characters and just made us fall in love with their relationship and just everything that they showed us. For me, this is such a beautiful episode, and I can only imagine how they're going to do the Ellie and Joel sections when eventually they just break those barriers out and they start to love each other like father and daughter. It's just... This show is just amazing. I'm sorry, it is just absolutely fantastic. And I guess that's kind of the only, non-spoiler things that I really want to say, because again, I give it a 10 out of 10 when it comes to the way it was directed, when it comes to the way it was, the script, when it comes to cinematography, when it comes to the music, when it comes to the acting, when it comes to every single thing about this episode. It was just fantastic. Of course, I do understand that there's a lot of people that are not going to like this episode because, of course, there's anti-woke people out there who absolutely hate anyone that is gay in media at all. They don't want to see it. There's always going to be people like that. There's always going to be people who, are gamers and purists who don't want things to change. And the diversions that they took, the liberties that they took with this episode from Bill's section, there's a lot of people that I'm already seeing on social media that are very annoyed, and they're actually calling this episode garbage, which is actually funny to me because you can say you don't like the changes that they did because it diverts a little bit too much from what you're used to and what you wanted to see, but you could also say the episode is well done, it's just not what I wanted. You can feel disappointed. You don't have to call the episode trash. You're literally undermining everything that was done in this episode, and everything that was done in this episode was very well done. It was very compelling. You have even people who are even anti-gay or have shown in the past that they're anti-gay content creators, and they're literally saying this is one of the most compelling episodes. It's insane. That's just kind of think about that. You can say both ways. I didn't like it, right? I didn't like the changes that they did, but I still think, it was a well-made episode. Just like my wife, she didn't really like the Joker movie, but she says it's a masterpiece of a movie. It's well directed, it's well shot, it's well acted. It's not my type of movie. And you can really say that, but oh well, I guess that's how the internet is, right? But still, for me, amazing, 10 out of 10. And I guess now we get into the spoiler section of the video. And I guess where I want to start with the spoiler section of the video is just, I really want to talk about one of my favorite parts of the episode, which was of course the beginning, when it comes to Ellie and Joel's relationship and how they're kind of little by little kind of breaking that barrier between them. And there's this one section that I absolutely loved where Ellie is, going to, this basement of this, store or whatever, where Joel, put some supplies and stuff, and she finds some tampons or whatever, but then she sees this infected, covered under rubble and can't move, and she sees the infected. And I really love this scene because they're showing a more of a darker side of Ellie's character. We all know that Ellie is this bubbly girl, very innocent, and doesn't know about the world. But in reality, she does also have her little dark sides, in the game. And here I feel like they're depicting it and showing it a little bit more. And I think they're executing it really good. There's some people that don't like it. I personally do like it because it will mesh well with some of the events that we see in The Last of Us Part 2. And it will make sense to Ellie's character. The way she was kind of just toying, with the infected, kind of cutting through his skull. And then at the end, just, analyzing the infected and then killing it. It was dark, and it was, I guess, just kind of showing her character. I liked it, and it was a nice scene. Of course, I also like the scenes where, Joel and Ellie, before, we get into the flashback scenes with Bill and Frank, where they're talking about, civilization, and they're talking about, oh my God, look at this plane. Oh my God, no way, you got to fly in the plane or whatever. And Joel's like, yeah, but like those people weren't lucky, when he's showing, the plane crashed because, of the infected and everything. And they were also talking about how the government would just, kill innocent people who were not infected because they didn't even do their due diligence to check if they were infected or not. And it really does show you the cruel world of The Last of Us, of how everyone is, in this world just to survive. And you really can't trust anyone, not even the government, because the government in this case are just absolutely crazy, and just, they act extremely like Bill says in the episode, which is funny, like Nazis or whatever. It's absolutely crazy. And I really did like just the way it was depicted. And then, of course, we get into the flashback scenes between, Bill and Frank. And before they get into the Frank's part, they actually show Bill, more of his character, more of him being a paranoid psychopath at certain points, where he has like, he has a bunker with, these old TVs and everything. And he sees that everyone is leaving town, and he's like very happy. He's finally alone. He doesn't feel scared anymore. He has all his guns and everything. He's paranoid, just like in the game, where he creates traps, he creates booby traps everywhere, he creates fences with electric, if you touch it you die or whatever. He has tanks of gas that throw flames if you get close to these to the fences and everything. And it's absolutely fantastic how they depict Bill in this episode. It really does stay true to its character, and giving it just a little layer to it. He likes to be alone. He doesn't want to be with anyone. He doesn't like that, because even in the game he even says it, having a person around you is just good for one thing: getting yourself killed. And it really does show you, that's his attitude in this episode, until he meets Frank, of course, where he trusts Frank, a little bit. He doesn't trust him fully, of course. Frank wants food and everything. He doesn't look like a guy that's going to hurt Bill. And Bill's like, okay, come to the house, take a shower. And, Frank is like very happy and everything. And then, he prepares Frank a very, nice dish. He loves it. He's, absolutely just blown away how amazing the food is, Frank. And then they have this, they're starting to have like this connection between them. And I feel like this is, they did really well, these scenes, because it really does show you how Bill has always been this kind of, very closeted guy that doesn't like to really show his emotions, doesn't like to really do stuff for others. But in this case, it's like he was just, in a way, almost forcefully doing this for Frank. And I feel it's because he kind of was understanding that, Frank isn't really that bad of a person. Let me see if I can just trust him a little bit. And he started opening, that closet that he had. And it's insane how Frank was picking up on how Bill was acting and everything, because by the end of them, doing, playing the piano and singing this beautiful song that they were, Frank kind of understood, man, this man Bill, he's kind of in the closet, and then they just kind of just like, it felt just natural, in my opinion, just the way Frank was like, you know what, I'm going to rip this closet up, and I'm just going to make this man literally be who he is. And in reality, in this episode, it shows how Bill was always this closeted gay person. And then Frank just opened the closet, and just, it made it easier for Bill to be who he always was, and was afraid to show the world, or too afraid to just be who he was. And now that there's nobody around, and it's just him and Frank, this episode really focuses on just, how Bill accepted who he is right away with Frank. And then they just have this journey with, each other. Years pass, and then, of course, they have discussions as a couple and everything. And it really does remind me a lot about, me and my wife. And this is where I'm just kind of be a little bit more personal. This video might be a little bit more personal. And it's just like my wife and I, before I kind of met her in that, sense, I was always also a closeted guy, in the sense of like, that I didn't want to show my emotions to everyone, or be who I was to everyone. And then with my wife, it just felt so easy to be who I was. And it made me feel like I was just in heaven with her. And that's why years later I decided that she was going to become my wife, and we married and everything, because I knew she was the person for me. She was the person who let me be who I was and accepted me for who I was. I didn't have to change for other people. I was just me. And this is exactly what this episode depicts, just Bill falling in love with Frank and vice versa, and them just growing together with time and just adapting to each other. I really did like, the parts of the episode where, Bill, Frank, are together with Tess and younger Joel, and it's just very nice how they still depict Bill's character as this paranoid guy who doesn't like to be around people, because it literally reminds me of the game. They really did keep Bill's character, exactly how he was in the game, and I really do feel like they just added more layers to the character. One of the most, heartbreaking things about this episode was eventually the end. And that's basically where, people, called this, the best episode in television for a while. And I do understand why they're saying it when it comes to the last days of, Bill and Frank, which for me was, very, very emotional, very moving, very sad. And it works because the show literally takes its time to create the bond between them. And it makes us as the audience care for these characters. And at the end, of course, Frank is like, I can't, really take this anymore. And I really want today to be my last day. Today is my last day. And I want this to be the best day it possibly can. He tells Bill, this is what I want to do today. I want this, and that. I want good food here. I want to, dressed. I want to get married, blah, 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 blah. All these other things. And again, it works because this episode took its time to build these characters, to make us care for them, and to actually put them in scenarios where we would fall in love with their relationship. And again, it was just well done. In my opinion, it was so sad. It was so... oh my God, this episode is just a lot, man. It's a lot. And it's... look, the part that I just loved the most was the table after they were married, after all the stuff that they did and got dressed. Just Bill's look to Frank, knowing that this is the last time that they're going to see each other, and that last stare to each other where he's putting the drugs into the wine. He gives it to Frank, and Frank drinks it, and Bill looks at him, and then he drinks his cup, and then the realization of Frank understanding that Bill also drugged his wine. He didn't approve of it. He even said it, I don't approve of this. But it's probably one of the most romantic things that I've seen. This is kind of like Romeo and Juliet, just done 1,000 times better. Because I was bawling out. I teared up. I honestly was just thinking to myself, if this was me and my wife and we were old and we accomplished everything, that is not a bad way to go. If this is your last day, this is just not a bad way to go. And I always tell my wife, if you die, I'll die with you, because I love my wife a lot. And I don't know. It's I'm sorry. It's just this episode was a lot. It was a lot, and it brought out emotions out of me that I just honestly did not expect. And of course, then they die at the end together. They go to the room, and then of course we have Joel and Ellie going to Bill's town, to his house. They read the letter and they realize, well, they died, and they explain, and everything. And then the part that also just made me just completely, almost just tear up completely, was when it gets to the part in the letter where it's like, hey, so protect Tess. I don't even remember at this point. I just remember that he was saying like, do everything you can to protect Tess. And then Joel just like, you can see in his face, he couldn't take it anymore. He goes outside and he's about to cry. Like, you can see him holding his tears. That for me was just extremely heartbreaking. This episode in its totality, man, it was just extremely just well done. It's getting me emotional right now, and I'm trying to hold back the tears right now just thinking about it, because I'm seeing Bill's and Frank's relationship, and the way Joel lost, his daughter, the way he lost now Tess, and then he's being reminded of his failures, just all these things. It's always making me think like, damn, like this is why The Last of Us, when it comes to the storytelling, it's always been one of my favorites, and they're expanding upon it, and they're giving me even more to fucking feel sad and cry about. This is just, I don't know. The guys, look, I think I rambled a lot in this video. I'm trying to process what I saw. This is a beautiful episode, and I guess this is where I'm gonna leave it off, because I just don't know what more I can add, and I don't know, just see it. If you haven't seen it and you've been watching me spoil you guys are dumb, but just let me know in the comment section down below. Like, Let me know what you guys think. I honestly loved it. Like the video as well if you liked the episode. And honestly, I'm just waiting for episode 4. Wow. Yeah. Endure and survive, guys. I'll see you guys in episode 4. It's, yeah.